A child stands crying at his bench, shrieking as loud as he could. If only you'd be quiet. Hush, you gypsy, and be good. Your papa's coming home at noon and won't like waiting for his food. The fire's too low, we'll be out soon because of troublesome you. Hush, here's a wagon and a rooster. Play with your soldier, he'll be a guard. But wagon, soldier, rooster, fly, bang, into the corner hard. Then piercing screams arise anew. I wish a hornet, you are so wild. I'll call the noon witch on you, you ungovernable child. Come and get him, noon witch, come, take him, I can bear no more. And look, someone's outside. A thumb is stealthily working the lock at the door. A wild, thin face, small and brown, is hid beneath a wrinkled veil, a crutch, bent shanks, menacing frown, such a voice, like a maddened gale. Give me the child. O Lord, O Christ, forgive the sinner her sin. But death is near and breathing close at the sight of the noon witch's grin. At the table creeping quietly, a shadow, the witch, with fingers spread. Mamma now can scarcely breathe, clutching the child with arms of lead. Her arms around him, she looks back. Wild, the noon witch creeps up even nearer. Woe, woe to the little child. The noon witch is almost here. Now the noon witch's hands are reaching as the mother's shoulders clench. For the sake of Christ's dear suffering, she falls to the floor without sense. Now listen. 1, 2, 3, 4. The bell is striking noon. The handle turns, and through the door, Papa strides into the room. Mama's fallen by the door. The child rises and falls on her breath. As Papa lifts her from the floor, he sees the child squeezed to death. Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Book Time with Elvis. You've just heard a very famous poem, obviously in translation, a very famous Czech poem from the book Kytice, or A Bouquet, by Karel, Jaromír, Erben. And this was a translation by Marcela Sulak. And this is a very famous book, and the reason I'm talking about this is because I wanted to make a little follow-up to the Sense of Place tag video I did a few videos ago, and in that I was supposed to talk about authors and books associated with the area I live in and the region I live in, and I mentioned a few of them, and rather foolishly I realized there were actually like 3 extremely famous Czech authors. I mean, like, you know, famous and important to the entire Czech kind of literary tradition, and one of them, of course, is Karel Jaromír Erben. And this book, it's a book of fables from Slavic folklore that are told in verse. As I said, the book's been translated. This book was actually published in 1853. And it was published and printed in Czech, which at the time was very important because most of the literature and things from this area at the time would have been done in German. So it was something important that that these authors, certainly the first 2 I'm going to talk about, published their works in their native Czech. It led to some kind of revival, really. And the poem I read at the beginning is called Noon Witch in English, or Polednica in Czech, and it is about a legend of an old woman, kind of which you can see here. The print in the book is quite scary, who goes around killing children who misbehave around the hour of noon. So personally I think that's quite scary because we expect things to happen at night and midnight and the witching hour and that kind of thing. And there's a lot of scary things in the book, and the book has been made into some kind of classic horror films, and I think there was one a few years ago as well, where they tell the stories and various stories from this book in the form of horror films. I think I'll move on from this one because I'd actually probably like to do a whole video on this. It's a very disturbing and interesting book. The next author I was going to write, who's also from this area, like Erben, is Alois Irasek, and he's also important to this. I forget the name of the movement. It's something like reawakening of the national consciousness. The whole idea that Czech writers would start writing in Czech again and not writing in German. And Irasek is, as I said, also from this area. He was born in the middle of the 19th century, and he's very famous for writing books as well around legends. One of his famous books is Old Czech Legends or Ancient Bohemian Legends, and he also wrote the story of a fictional character called F.L. Wiek, and the birthplace and story is all set in the next town away from me, in a place called Dobruška, and you can even go and visit the character's birthplace, even though of course he didn't really exist. So Erben and Irasek are very, very famous, certainly within the Czech Republic and possibly internationally, so I really should have mentioned them in that video. And the last one I want to mention is Karel Čapek, and he also is a really famous author who I should have mentioned because he is from just down the road as well in this region, and he's famous for writing this book here, War with Newts, which is kind of a dark comedy, an allegory of early 20th century politics within the first Czechoslovak Republic after World War I. He's also very famous for giving the world a word, and that word is robot. And actually, the word robot celebrates its centenary this year, or it's already celebrated it, because he wrote a play called R.U.R., and it was Rossum's Universal Robot. And actually, he wasn't sure what word to use to describe what we now use, robot. It's very easy for us. And it was his brother, Josef Čapek, who came up with this idea of robot. And there's some kind of Czech word, I can't remember the original, but it meant something that serves or something like that. And they, jigged it a little bit and came up with this word robot. And so you see, the word has only been in existence for 100 years. And it's amazing when you think of all the science fiction and everything that uses the term robot, and yet you go back to before 1921 and there wasn't a word for it. So there you go. It's quite interesting, I think. Well, I hope you found it interesting as well. So yeah, I just wanted to mention these authors who I left out of that video because I think, I really should have mentioned them. And I would probably like to do some video in the future on Czech literature and Czech books, because there's a very strong and rich tradition here of writing and storytelling, and I think it would be really nice to do it. I hope you enjoyed the little intro at the beginning. That's my drive to work, and today is the 13th of April, and it looked like it was February. It was a winter wonderland. It's crazy. We were sweating a couple of days ago. The temperature was in just around 20, and then today it was back to snow and snowfall. So again, it ties in with my neck of the woods, because you got to see part of my journey to school, because we are back to school now in the Czech Republic, albeit on a rotational system. So not all classes are back. They will go back on alternating weeks, and the children have to be tested each time they come back to school, for the week they're supposed to be at school. So yeah, it's a small village school I'm at anyway. So only having 3 classes in out of 9. The place still feels empty, but it's certainly got a bit more life to it than it had last week anyway. So yeah, I hope you don't mind me sharing a couple of things with you. As I say, I really wanted to just kind of give a bit more info on that tag, and give some voice to some people I should have mentioned before. So thank you very much for watching. I wish you all well. Please stay healthy, and I'll see you all again soon. All the best. Take care. Bye bye.